dominant truths of the 21st century is that almost anything you can imagine being done by machine will be done by machine, and what that leaves us is a creative space.
We are seeing the increasing computerization of kinds of service work that we thought 10 or 20 years ago could never be automated.
Today, there are many industries and many kinds of human work that are not terribly creative, but that could be profoundly creative, and that creativity could be deeply unlocked with these new tools.
When we think about this world of information abundance, it's defined by the immense creative possibilities brought to us by the power of social networks, by this kind of real-time flow of information and new ways of making things. And when we pull all of those things together, huge possibilities are unlocked.
I think one of the things we have to do is redefine the word productivity. We've automated away a lot of the routine work. And so what's left for us, the humans, is a lot of creative work, is a lot of non-routine work. And so suddenly, just doing things really quickly is less important than doing the right things. And so this also explains why it's so much more important that we have engaged and motivated employees.
You don't have to go to too many stores to see cashiers that are not engaged, to see people waiting tables that are not engaged, to see white-collar workers that are not engaged. In fact, engagement is at an all-time low if you sort of track it historically over time. And yet we live in this world of abundance, of ideas, of connection. So there's this huge gap.
Actually, yeah, this is Kat here.
How do we get people to care and then to go and sort of live up to their capability as individuals, as team members?
We're all asking ourselves, well, what can I bring to the equation that a robot can't? Those things are things like empathy, they are things like an imagination, they are things like curiosity and vulnerability. And so these are all qualities that are really paramount for us as human beings.
There are many people who, when they find their greatest fulfillment in their work, they find they're bringing their whole humanity to the task.
I'm employed for a specific job description, but do you think that's all I know about? Do you think that's the only experience that I've got to bring to this?
A visual artist, they also have ears. I also have eyes. We both have minds.
When you're in the workplace, there's not always that sense that we can play and be creative in order to find the best solutions. And yet, if we did, we would probably be so much more empowered and make so many better choices.
So what I see is just this untapped potential energy, and it's all because of the systems and processes and mindset that we're using. If we just change the mindset, suddenly there's untapped capability, untapped potential that is sort of there at our fingertips, just waiting for us to kind of access it.
A successful day at work for me is probably defined by what I would call creative flow.
We have a wonderful capacity for dealing with complicated problems that may involve paying attention to several different things at once, but having them all converge on a same kind of creative endpoint.
Things are flowing, the muscles are loose, the hearing is clear, and everything is coming in, and I feel like it could be 6 voices and I can hear all 6 conversations very clearly and can process them and send it back out.
This is something that, especially when you're young, you don't really think about, you just kind of fall into, right? You gotta get interested in a problem or if you just look up and 12 hours have passed. I think we've all had that experience when we're working well of getting into what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi famously calls these flow states.
We need to remove barriers and allow this flow to happen across different types of work, across different types of space and across different types of device, and allow people to use all of their natural modalities very, very seamlessly.
A lot of people worry that creativity is going to be impacted by the fact we're all hyper-connected these days.
One, I think, issue we face in our modern world is now being
inundated by more information than we can process.
We're now tethered to devices that beep at us all day long.
47 reply-alls that consist of 2-word answers.
And our brains didn't evolve to process all these sources of information from multi-screens or from our Google Glass or from everything at the same time, right?
We've lost the ability to actually create cognitive space for us to sit and think because the tools make it so easy and so compelling and so engaging.
We are now creating in a world in which we are inundated. The fears about information overload have all come true. And we are dependent on the very systems that overwhelm us for part of our creative process. And managing the tension and paradox of that is enormously difficult for people.
And so the challenge is to figure out how to use them in ways that help users be more focused and mindful rather than be perpetually distracted and fractured.
Mindfulness is the buzzword in business these days. If you read the New York Times, it'll raise your standardized test scores, it'll increase your productivity, all these wonderful things. But another important aspect of mindfulness is it also helps focus attention.
Having more information available to me should make me better at doing my job if I can just do a better job sorting through it.
Context is an incredibly powerful tool that we can make use of, using machine learning, filtering, pattern analysis, that type of technology.
I think contextual awareness is going to be a very big play for the future. So contextualized information needs filtering. It needs to be contextualized based on our presence and preferences. And that's where the secret of success will come from.
We desperately need filtering. Filtering is crucial for us if we are to make sense of all of the just an incredible ocean of content that exists around there.
This understanding of context in the workplace can really help us zero in on what matters most and can help us embrace this stream of information and stream of communications and make the most of it so that we can work creatively with it rather than push against it.
I would boil the challenge that workers of the future will face into this phrase. You can be automated or you can augment yourself. Humans have an incredible capacity that has developed over hundreds of thousands of years to offload parts of our memories, to extend our senses, our abilities to think, using technology.
In interacting with our technologies, we discover new ways of doing things. Technology is a design medium in many ways. So we co-author, co-design, and interact with technologies in new ways, creating new capabilities.
You can see this with the history of writing, with musical instruments, with the history of art. All of these are to form part of a grand story of humans using technologies to do things that they could not just on their own. It's really very much part of the story of what makes us who we are.